Hi, I'm Chef Murph, and welcome today to Chef Murph's Kitchen. Today we'll be cooking chicken chazor with a rice pilaf and peas. Today we have chicken, our fresh chicken, and all our ingredients already cut. First, it's olive oil, cuts down the thing. Then we're going to add some butter. And then we're going to sweat our onions to get them translucent. Get them hot as we're going along. We're going to also add some of our mushrooms as we add our mushrooms. And now we're going to let them toast till they're translucent. We're going to add a little garlic. The key is we want to sit there and make sure that everything molds together. The key with all of this is the butter, getting the onions bright and translucent. A little bit about myself. I was born in South Jersey. At the age of 5, my parents were divorced. I lived with my mother, who then remarried and married an abusive man. We then traveled in and out of family and to shelters as a young child to try to make something. As we did that, I then finally went to live with my father and his wife, where I was sent away to boarding school as the third wheel. As we went into boarding school, my father ran into financial problems with his company, and I wound up coming back to live home, which I couldn't do. I then, at 17, joined the military. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It matters what you take and learn from each situation that you come through. I was in the military. Everyone was green. Nobody had a hyphenized nationality. We all worked together as a team. I joined after Ronald Reagan had made together the black and white army. So they made it all one and made us green. And we had to deal with people of diversification. People who were Spanish, people who were Latin, people who were Russian, people who were Polish. It didn't matter. We were all a team, and we could do anything. Later I'll talk about Sergeant Major Dortch. But that's where I come from. I've been a police officer here in New York City. I've driven a truck for the last 25 years. I carry about 3.2 million miles safe driving and see everything. I've been to all 48 states, including 3 provinces of Canada. Let's take a look at these onions. They're getting there almost. You can make your own food at home and save a lot of money. But most of all, it's the difference of being nutrition. You have good food. Good food causes better decisions because nutrition makes people think differently. If you're starving, it's a state of mind. So having good food and making good food at home, you know that it's good quality. Today, our food in the United States, 93.7% of it our fish comes from China. 60% of all our chicken comes from China. Whoever feeds you owns you. When countries like Russia have 78 to 85% of their food grown in country, it's a security issue. But I think we need to get back to basics. And cooking back to basics means taking care of your family through good nutrition. It's what you eat, not how much you eat. Getting back to this, let's stir this. You'll find that in today's world, our president's wife, Michelle Obama, is pushing for good food in all our schools so everyone has a good meal. This is so important. I'd like to talk about My Plate. It's a great website done by the U.S. government. What you find is that the president's wife, Michelle Obama, is pushing the My Plate. But the neat thing about My Plate is that it was done by scientists, food nutritionists, compared to that of the food pyramid, which was done by people who sell produce. It's actually done in a real nice way. What you find is that in my plate, that 3/4 of the plate needs to be green. That's your vegetables and your salad and your meat, your protein. But you'll also find that you have your dairy on the side. Dairy is important. You know, if you can go to an almond milk with zinc, that adds for nutrition. That helps with better thinking so that people can make better decisions. It's time to get back to basics. The neat thing about America is that we have something called the melting pot. In New York City, in all our cities, they're like a central location where people meet. They combine all their cultures together to fuse what we call America, which is so important. I'm going to add a little moisture in here so they can get translucent, and we're going to stir them a little bit. This is so important in America. That's what makes America great. You know, our cooking, be it Spanish cooking, Polish cooking, Chinese cooking, it's all important. It's who we are. If we lose our culture, we lose it all. I'm going to put in some of the black pepper. And a little bit of salt. I'm going to save the salt for the end. You never want to put too much salt or pepper in till the end to finish it, because it may be too much and take over the dish. Next thing we're going to do is add the tomatoes. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the rest of the mushrooms. We're going to saute them in, make sure that they're complete. We're going to stir that all together and let it combine. We're going to let them fuse. And then we're going to take a pan. We're going to bring our pan up, and we're going to place our stuff in the pan and put it on the side. As we place that in the pan, next thing we're going to do is just put our chicken together. As we put our chicken together in the pan, we're going to put it face down. We want it to caramelize. We want the skin to get right. What we're doing is we're getting it started. We're getting the flavors together. We're getting the skin and the fats all starting to move. We're going to add a little bit more olive oil. And we're sprinkling a little parsley inside our dish while we're waiting for that to cook. The next thing I'm going to do, I don't want you to do unless you've done it before, or at least try it outside, is we're going to do a flambe. In the flambe, what it does is it seals in the skin so it's not loose around the outsides. That is so important for keeping the flavor in while it's baking, because what it does is it keeps the moisture inside the chicken. And what we're going to do is, we've already sealed it a little bit. We're going to turn these over so that we seal in the chicken's skin. It's nice golden brown starting to happen. Yeah, it's, as you can see, you see all these loose edges here on the chicken. What happens with a flambe is you take your wine, or you can actually use a spiced rum. You have to be careful that you don't use too much. You have to use a little bit. You pour it in the center. Now we take the flambe, puts a little flame onto it, and what it does is it seals in the chicken. Kind of like broiling a little bit, but it's not. What you're doing is sealing in all these little pieces here so it seals in the chicken. wait for it to cook off. Now we're going to add it into our dish. Just move them around. Everything will be fine. And what we're going to do is put a little bit over top. Take our pan off. What we're going to do is we're going to pour the rest of the juices over top. We're going to put this into the oven for 350 degrees for 20 minutes to 25 minutes. We're going to then temp it to make sure we have a core temperature of 169 degrees. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to come back with my son. We're going to do rice pilaf. Hi, and welcome back to Chef Murph's American Kitchen. Today I have with me my son, our Max. Today we'll be cooking rice pilaf for you. Max, why don't you start browning up the onions and the rice. What we're going to do is put some butter in. After we put some butter in, we're going to put some onions in. We're going to get them translucent. Pass that back, son. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little oil. Thank you, son. Max, put some oil in there. Hey, the reason why we put oil in there is because of cooking temperatures. Butter will burn, add a little oil to it, get them translucent, get the temperature up, and we're going to get it in there. Max, why don't you stir them for me? Stir them good. Okay, what you got to be concerned with rice is we're going to then coat the rice. We're going to get all the onions going. We've got the oil in there. We're going to coat the rice. We're going to get it up to a temperature, and then we're going to add our chicken stock to it. You want to keep a 3-to-1 ratio. 1 part rice, 2 parts chicken stock. If you don't have chicken stock, you can put water in there. That's fine. Use what you have. The thing is, rice is good for you. It's a good staple. So Max, what do you think is the main reason why you should cook at home?
You should cook at home a lot more so you spend time with your family and you get to make delicious meals and you don't have to spend that much money on food at stores.
That's right, because rice, if you make this dish at home, it costs you 1/3 of what it cost if you went to the store and bought it in a little box. And you would only get half and it wouldn't be yours. The key is to eat fresh, eat local, and you can do this. It's not that hard. It's very simple. Max is doing it. He's 11. Cooks with me all the time. Max, why don't you put the rice in? Right. Pour it in. Pour it in. Come on. Next we're going to do is coat it. What you're doing now is you're coating the rice with the grease and the oil, the butter and the oil. It's most important to get that all stirred up. If it gets too brown, you need to add a little bit more butter. That's fine. Next thing we're going to do is, as we go through, we're going to add our chicken stock. As you got chicken stock and chicken broth, most of the time chicken stock is reduced with no flavoring. Normally it's your bland sauce, one of your mother sauces. You have 3 mother sauces, your brown, your white, and then your fish stock. The key is when you get into your chicken broth, it's when it's been seasoned, it's been roasted with the chicken in the pan, drained, degreased. The key important to this is you're adding it so it then goes into the oven. If you can look at the rice, you'll see that some of the rice is browning on top. That's perfectly fine. That means that everything's coated and it's time to add the chicken stock. You always add the chicken stock and pour away from you. I'm doing this one because that's what happens. It'll stir in. And that's fine. Now what you're going to do is you're going to stir it and wait for it to come back up to a boil. A light boil. When it comes up to a light boil, we're then going to put it inside the oven. Max, continue to stir that so it doesn't burn on the bottom.
Yes, Dad.
Good job. While he's stirring that, we're going to add the rest of our spices. I want you to be careful about adding salt. Salt and cayenne. It's always better to add a little now and a lot later, because then you're adjusting the taste from being cooked inside the oven. You have your friends over, you have your family. You don't want them burning or gagging. So we're going to add a little bit of salt. We're going to add the cayenne, just a little bit of cayenne. And then we're going to add a little bit of saffron. Now, saffron is very expensive. And if you don't have it, that's fine. Put in there what you have. It's all good. Next thing you know, we're going to go into making peas. What I have already is some water and some butter mixed all together. And they've melted. And what we're going to do is add our peas. Always pour away from you so that you get in the habit. It's all about safety. When you pour away from you, make sure you get in that habit. And then we have our peas. I'd like to sit there and give an honor to one of the greatest truckers in the world. This trucker is the master of the multi-stop. Does the most amount of miles ever. And people love him. And I'd like to sit there and give some recognition to the greatest trucker in the world. Yours and mine. The master of the multi-stop, Santa Claus. Santa Claus makes me think of wintertime. Wintertime makes me think of stuffed apples. Max is going to finish up on the rice pilaf, and we're going to come back and do some baked stuffed apples. Hi, we're back. Now we're going to work on our apples. We're making a stuffed apple with ice cream with the caramel sauce and pecans. Actually, it's pecan. I'll tell you the story in a little bit. First thing we're going to do is we're going to coat our apples. We have our apples. They're peeled, they're cored, and leave a little bit on the bottom so everything holds the inside. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of butter. We're going to smush it in your hand, and you're going to coat the apple. As you coat the apple, you put it back because we're going to save it, and then you take the apple and put the apple in the brown sugar. It doesn't have to be anything serious. You just want to sit there and make sure it's on there. And you put it in here. Then you take your butter and put your butter on the inside. Just a little bit of butter. Doesn't have to be that great, just a little bit of butter. Then we're going to take our other apple and we're going to do the same. You know, as soldiers, we need to sit there and be, a lot of us are veterans. And our veterans have served, and we need to take care of them. There's 1 out of every 4 people in a shelter is a veteran. And normally it's the father and the mother and the 2 children that are in the shelter with them. That's the 1 out of the 4. What's sad part is that they're in the shelter. I cook at shelters on the weekends when I'm not on the road driving big truck. It's kind of depressing as a soldier. You're willing to give your life, but you don't get, most people don't know it, but there's something called 22. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. Think about how many people are in your high school class. How fast would your high school class be dissolved? You figure there's a little over 300 million people in the United States. It's important to take care of our vets, but it's more important for our older vets to show leadership by example and help out. The more successful ones, the ones that have been to Vietnam that weren't taken care of. It's so important. I mean, it's a disgrace not to. Getting back to pecans. You know, if you're from the north, you say pecan. If you're from the south, it's called pecan. There's a chef, Dolores Fatizzi, out of Mississippi, who's on Good Morning Mississippi, and she makes this correction to me all the time when we talk on the phone. So we have the stuffed apples, they're coated. We have butter on the inside, and it's just so it doesn't fry up as bad and lose all the moisture. You'll notice that when it comes out of the oven, there'll be a lot of moisture in there when we put them together. So now we're going to go into our sauce. Put our sauce in. We're going to take our butter, and we're going to put it down. As we put the butter down, remember, everything goes away. We're going to take our brown sugar. Now let's use a spatula for food safety. Even though it's a little bit of love, just remember butter is nothing but love. We're going to sit there and get that all going together. Then we're going to sit there and add a little our pecans. And as after we put that together, Get that going down. At this time, I'd like to honor someone in the military, someone who gave me my motivation to succeed, who taught me that you can be anything in the world you want to be. And it doesn't matter your color, your race. When you fail, you sit there and you re-educate yourself. You become stronger and faster to succeed. At this time, I'd like to honor and dedicate this presentation to William Dortch, Sergeant Major William Dortch. Thank you. Now we're going to add the cut apples. And we're going to put this in the oven. The apples in the oven for 5 to 10 minutes. And then we'll temp. The key thing about temping with food safety is you need to be concerned with is the chicken that when we go to temp it needs to be about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. You have to be concerned with, when dealing with chicken, with salmonella, E. coli, because they all die at around 140 degrees. This is important for food safety. You're dealing with your family. You know, one thing you can do while washing, when bringing vegetables home and meats, is you need to sit there and wash them. Your vegetables, you would wash them if they came in from the garden. Why wouldn't you wash them when they come in from the store? Think about this. From the field to the supermarket, approximately 25 people have touched that produce. Where did they use the facilities at? God forbid. You need to wash them. Now, the way to wash them is to sit there and take a quarter cup of baking soda, put your vegetables in your sink, and let them soak for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes with the baking soda. It's so important. It'll kill off anything that's on them, the E. coli, or any other types of germs. Getting back to temping food. Say you're having a party and outside, you need to think about the temperature outside. If it's above 90 degrees, your food can only last an hour outside. If it's under that, between 60 and 70 degrees, you need to sit there and max 2 hours. Food safety is important. You don't want to poison your people, your friends. Let's go back and check our apples. This is reducing well. The apples are starting to look good. It's starting to caramelize. That's awesome. We're going to pop these apples in the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be coming back to present all our dishes. Hey, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. I'd like to introduce you to my son, Ryan, and you already met Max, who did the rice pilaf. Well, we're going to finish up. We've plated everything. We have a temp of 169 on our chicken. All good for food safety. Now what we're going to do is we're going to finish the apples. As we finish the apples, we have our caramel sauce that we had made earlier, and we're going to put it right on top of those apples. Ooh-wee. Check out those apples. They're filled with ice cream already. There they are. Just look at that sugar. It's all good. Wow, that goes with our chicken charzer, our rice pilaf, and our peas. Doesn't that look good, guys?
Yes.
Hey, if you guys have problems out there cooking, you can go to the web and you can find me at chefmurph.com. Thank you for joining me at Chef Murph's American Kitchen. I'm Chef Murph. I'll see you next week.
It's it, Daddy.